I'm delighted to be here, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished scholars and members. I'm speaking about my personal journey of transformation where I lost 110 pounds 7 years ago and have been able to keep it off. And a key to keeping it off is through muscle strength. And I'm dealing and speaking specifically on sarcopenia prevention. And many of you may not be familiar with that term. Sarco means muscle and penia means deficiency. And a key to being able to keep your weight loss, preserve your weight loss permanently is gaining muscle. And we'll look at that and see how that leads us in this. I have a BS in chemistry with an emphasis in biochemistry and organic chemistry. I understand the metabolism of the body and have learned about that. I'm a registered U.S. patent attorney. I have my own patents, and I'm a practicing attorney right now. So let me begin the presentation. I want to start out with my story. It's not a pretty story, but it has a good ending. Or I should say this, it doesn't really have an ending. It's continuous. And it started in 2016 in August. I was done. I woke up one morning. I was dizzy. I was about to pass out. I couldn't stand up and told my wife something's really wrong. I couldn't drive. She drove me to the hospital. I ended up in the ER. And I want to show you this. This was in San Jose, California. My blood pressure at that time was 174 over 101. The doctor looked at that and he told me, he said, I was at imminent risk of a stroke or heart attack and I had to change my ways. As you can see, I was obese in this picture, had a large belly, and I really thought it was over. I was at that time 68 years old, and I thought, I've yo-yo dieted my whole life. How can I do this? How can I change? And I had been heavily overweight for greater than 30 years, as you can see in these photos. And all of them, I was obese. I yo-yo dieted for that period of time, lost some weight, gained some weight, but never did any significant weight loss, or certainly not keep it off permanently. So what was it that changed me? Do you think the doctor's warning telling me that I was at imminent risk of stroke or heart attack caused a change? It did not. And this is a book written by author Alan Deutschman, Change or Die. And what he said was people who were given a similar ultimatum as that, where the doctor told them you were at imminent risk of catastrophic physical changes, or if you don't change your metabolism immediately within that 1 year. According to the author, 90% of the people that were given such an ultimatum did not change their ways. And I was one of them. I hadn't changed. It didn't cause me to change my lifestyle at all. Now, when I was a young man, however, I was quite fit and athletic. I played high school football, ran track, was on the swimming team. And one of the things that I really wanted to do was to join the Marine Corps. This is me as a young man in my Marine Corps dress blues. I was very proud to wear that uniform. So what was it that caused me to change my lifestyle and lose weight permanently with no injections, no excessive exercise, and no more yo-yo dieting? Well, it was that image of the Marine Corps uniform. I had a cousin who invited me to the Marine Corps birthday ball, which is November 10th every year. And this was about 6 months in advance of that. They invited me to attend that, and I had not been able to fit in my military uniform in well over 30 years. And I thought, you know what? This is a goal. I can do it. I can lose. At that time, I had 76 pounds to lose to get back to my military weight. I can lose those 76 pounds in 6 months, and I'm going to do it. I want to fit in my uniform again. And as you can see, here's a before and after. I was able to do it. I had that goal. And you can see the difference here. This was me. I really had not a double chin, but a triple chin. and I was able to lose that, maintain muscle tone, and keep that weight off. I lost 110 pounds total from my all-time high, from 293 to 183, which is where I am right now, and I've kept it off for 7 years. No more yo-yo dieting. It's been a total transformation for me, the difference between night and day with what it's made in my life. That was my goal, to fit in my dress blue uniform. And I'd like to ask, what is your goal? We've got Christmas and the New Year's coming up in just a little over 3 months from now. Is it your goal for a holiday party to be fit, a wedding that you would attend, a graduation, perhaps a reunion? Maybe you have a vacation planned, you want to get a promotion, or you just want a better lifestyle and health. And I've always been impressed with this quote by Viktor Frankl: those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. In other words, if you have a goal, you can put up with whatever it takes to get there. And I'm living proof of that. If you have that goal. So what did I learn, and how can I impart that to you? How can you do it? And I want to say, if I can do it, you can do it too. As you saw, the high blood pressure, I had all of the metabolic syndrome. I was pre-diabetic. I had heart issues, and just in ill health. My joints hurt all the time. Well, what's changed? If you look at a beach scene from the 1960s or 70s, it was hard to find an overweight person. So what's changed in that period of time? Human nature didn't change. We're still the same people. Well, today in the U.S., 72% of all Americans are overweight. That means with a BMI of greater than 25. 42% are obese. That's with a BMI of greater than 30. And 9% are severely obese. That means with a BMI of greater than 40. The average man today weighs 26 pounds more than his counterpart in the 1970s. And the average woman weighs 20 pounds more than her counterpart in the 70s. And this is where we are today. 42% obesity. Yet if you go back to 1960, it was 13%, and it remained relatively flat till about 1980, and then it starts taking off. And the same with severe obesity. It's actually less than 1%, 0.9% from 1960, stays relatively flat to 1980, and then increases, where we are at over 9% today, which means that there has been a tenfold increase in severe obesity, which translates to roughly about being 100 pounds overweight. I was in that category for a while. So what's happened? What caused this? Well, there was a Dr. Ansel Keys who was determined that cholesterol was the culprit causing heart disease in the U.S. So he came up with a 7-nation study that said we need to eliminate cholesterol from our diet. Let's get rid of butter. We're going to add vegetable products like Crisco, canola oil. We're going to remove all cholesterol. We're going to remove meats from the diet. And that led to the infamous USDA food pyramid, in which they came out and said that we should eat up to 11 servings of carbohydrates per day, and they minimized the role of good, healthy oils and fats in our diet to being used sparingly. So what did that do? We went from butter to Crisco to canola oil, and all of these seed oils that you see, the vegetable oils and seed oils, interchangeable, canola oil, mazola oil, rapeseed oil, soy oil, all of them are toxic to the body. They're refined with hexane, a petrochemical, and then they are deodorized, actually, and they are used in almost all fried foods if you go to any fast food restaurant, in chicken nuggets, certainly fries, and they use these over and over again. If there is just one thing you could do to help improve your health, it's cut out all fried foods, because being fried in these oils is just not good for you. And much of what you have been told is wrong. There is the energy balance equation that says a calorie is a calorie is a calorie, And that will tell you that, say, for example, 450 calories of a chocolate cake is the same as 450 calories of a filet mignon. But I think we all instinctively understand that can't be true. The nutritional value is completely different, and a calorie is not a calorie. Another lie that you're told is if you do this or that program, you can continue to eat your favorite foods. Well, that's a lie because these foods are toxic and harmful to the body. And if you can wean yourself to get off of the high glucose, the high carbohydrates, you won't crave these anymore. You won't want to eat these so-called favorite foods. So this is why the energy balance equation is wrong, that all calories are equal. It doesn't account for hormones and insulin resistance. And just quickly, what insulin resistance is, insulin's function is to open the cell membrane so it can provide glucose to the inside of the cell. But after years of insult and injury and being overweight, the cells finally say, look, no more, our lock will not open to you. So what happens? The insulin can no longer put the glucose inside the cell, so that glucose just circulates throughout the body. It goes in the liver, it can go through the blood-brain barrier and cause visceral fat, because that's what insulin does. If there's excess glucose in the blood, it will store it as fat. Now we're told, well, take metformin, that will reduce glucose from the blood. But really what it does, it's just like sweeping it under the rug. It's true that metformin does reduce liver gluconeogenesis, that is glucose produced by the liver, and it also can reduce the absorption of glucose in the intestines, but it doesn't deal with the root problem. So one of the keys of what I learned is you want to actually reverse the food pyramid. Don't start with the carbohydrates on the base. Start with good, healthy meats, cheeses, and oils as your base, and then vegetables, proteins, eggs, and your carbohydrates should be fruits like berries. These are just excellent for you, and they have xanthocyanins in them, which have tremendous health benefits. Now, we've got to eat more protein as well, and it should be 0.8 of a gram of protein for every pound of body weight. So if, say, for example, a woman wants to weigh or does weigh 120 pounds, multiply that by 0.8, you get 96 grams. So a woman at 120 pounds would want to eat 96 or 100 grams of protein a day. For a man at 180 pounds, that would translate into 144 grams of protein per day. And to show you that this works, this is me on my 75th birthday last October. I feel metabolically 30 years or more younger. I can do things. I skydive now. I run. On my 75th birthday, to celebrate it, I ran 7.5 miles in Austin, Texas. Felt very good. Actually ran the last 2 miles faster than the first. And this is the picture I took last week. It's not to show muscle mass per se. I'm not a weightlifter. I don't have a gym membership. I don't go to a gym. I just want to show you that it's possible at age 75 to retain your muscle mass, which is so critical, as I'll discuss in just a minute. Well, we talk about sarcopenia. What does this mean? Sarco means muscle, and penia means deficiency. So sarcopenia is a muscle deficiency caused from typical calorie restriction diets and aging. And as I'll point out, in a typical calorie restriction diet, of the weight that's lost, 25% that's lost is loss of lean muscle mass tissue. And this can lead to falls, fractures, and disability. This muscle loss is accelerated by obesity because it becomes a vicious cycle. You don't exercise much because you're heavy and overweight, and the poor nutrition with the high fructose corn syrup, the ultra processed foods, and sarcopenia, the muscle deficiency, goes together with osteopenia, and we know osteo means bone, and again, a deficiency. And if this is prolonged enough, that leads to osteoporosis. And I think all of us have heard of osteoporosis. So what what that leads to is bones that are porous, they don't have enough calcium in them, and they're subject to breaking. And how can you tell? Is there any test for sarcopenia? Well, actually, the medical literature says that there is, and this test has been used for well over 60 years. It's a hand grip dynamometer, and you press it to see how strong your arms are and your wrists and hands, and that's a good indicator of overall strength. And there are some numbers. If you're a man, you want to be in this region by age. You want to be able to get in kilograms. These numbers here are above for women. These numbers, but if you fall below 27 kilograms for men or 16 kilograms strength for a woman, that's indicative of sarcopenia. And there are things you can do. You can transform your body to change that. There's a new phrase that's been coined, sarcopenic obesity, skinny fat. It's excess fat, but less muscle. It's a dangerous combination. Traditional diets often worsen muscle loss, and it leads to this weaker, flabbier condition with poor muscle tone, skinny fat. So I put this chart together, and it shows that with the typical calorie restrictive diet, 25% of that loss is lean muscle mass. And if you're taking a GLP-1 therapy drug, up to 40%, and I'm going to show you in the next slide the literature regarding that, comes from those drugs. And there's a phrase that's been used recently out of Hollywood. They call it Ozempic face, where the face looks sunken and hollow because even the facial muscles have been reduced and causing this. And as I put this chart together, my wife said, well, but you didn't put in a bar for the third part, which is high protein and resistance training. Well, you can't see it, but it's at zero. What it means is that with high protein in your weight loss diet and resistance training, I'm not talking about going to a gym and being a gym rat. I'm talking about something very simple. You can lose the weight without losing any lean muscle mass or muscles through it. Now, here's an article I wanted to show you. I mentioned up to 40% from GLP-1 drugs as a weight loss. This article was published in January of this year. It's in the National Library of Medicine and PubMed Central, the effects of GLP-1 receptor agonists. The first author is Victoria Old, and here is an excerpt from that article. And I just want to bring this to your attention. Emerging evidence shows that up to 40% of overall weight loss with semaglutide, that's your GLP-1s, is lean body mass, which has a negative effect upon skeletal muscle mass, especially in populations at high risk of sarcopenia. And then they go on to say that this weight loss is also associated with bone loss. So these are scientific studies. If you want a copy of this program of mine to check these resources out and references, please do so. So what I want to say is I don't belong to a gym. These are easy exercises that anybody can do. I built my muscle just by using some simple things. These are 15-pound kettlebells and just doing them, hand to hand back and forth. And then this is a 35-pound kettlebell. Now with this one, I swing it, and I do recommend using a weightlifter's belt, though, to protect your lower back with that. And then the other thing I do is push-ups. These are push-up handlebars where you grip the handlebars as you do the push-ups. And I've invented some equipment. It's this roller board that goes back and forth that assists in doing push-ups. It makes it actually fun to do, and you look forward to it. The key is consistency. You want to be able to do this 3 times a week. You have a day on and a day off because you have to let your muscles and the fibers that have been stressed to be able to heal, and that gives you more strength. And then doing functional moves like squats, push-ups, using resistance bands. a key also is walking about 3 miles a day. And that takes about an hour if you're going to walk. That'll give you approximately 7,000 steps. Uh, I don't count steps per se, but this is the equivalent. So it's very, very important to get out and do the walking because it also strengthens your bones. And also it helps with your balance. If you're going to do these things, do it barefoot outside where you get the grounding effect. And as you're swinging the kettlebell, your center of balance changes and your feet grip in different ways as you're swinging it. And this helps your overall strength. So avoiding sarcopenia with proper nutrition. Well, I think we all know these are high quality proteins here as one way to avoid it. Eggs, fish, dairy, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and so forth. Antioxidant, anti-inflammatory foods like berries, leafy greens, and so forth. And then foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, and then bone supportive nutrients, again, leafy greens, broccoli, and so forth and so on. Many of us know this, but it's important to limit our diet to this and avoid all of these other carbohydrates which tend to work against that. And wanted to say, one of the sad things, a consequence of a hip fracture that's caused by sarcopenia is up to 20 to 30% of people that have a hip fracture die within 1 year. In fact, I was speaking with someone last week who told me his father-in-law had a hip fracture and did, in fact, pass away within that 1 year. But the other thing, assuming a person survives that, there's a loss of independence, the possibility of a nursing home, fear of falling, depression, social isolation. How can you avoid this? Again, avoid sarcopenia. Build your muscles. And so what I talk about and speak and teach on is a low-carb, high-protein diet for 90 days to lower that insulin resistance, and then ease into a Mediterranean diet, which is sustainable for life and has been proven to be one of the best overall nutritional diets for everybody. And then you've got to do these body weight resistance exercises. But they're simple. They're not difficult. But doing it 3 times a week makes all the difference in the world. It's doable and it works. Well, I want to talk about the main goal shouldn't be just weight loss per se, but rather fat loss in which you have a vitality and vibrancy of life. Since I lost the weight, I can skydive. You know, if you weigh over 220 pounds, most skydive places won't take you. You're too heavy. But now I do it. I enjoy doing it, and there's a vibrancy that comes with that. I feel healthy. I play with my grandkids. I run with them. I play catch with them. I roll on the grass with them. There are all of these things that you can do when you're vibrant. And as I said, I'm 75. I certainly don't feel it. I feel like I'm maybe 35 or less. I feel better than I did then when I was heavily overweight. I've written a book about it. I've been featured in USA Today, MSN, NBC, and LA Weekly. But let me say this. Reading a book doesn't get you there. The book has all the methods and techniques, and as we spoke about, this book, Change Your Diet, that I mentioned earlier, 90% didn't change, but then the author followed a group of people that were given the same ultimatum that had coaching, accountability, and support. And those people, it was a complete reversal. Those people did change, and that's what I offer. Before you transform your body, you need to transform your mind. And as Lao Tzu said in 500 BC, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. That means you've got to get rid of the past that's been wrong thinking and think what's correct. And I wanted to say this. I thought it was appropriate since this conference emanates out of Rome, Italy. In the letter to the Romans, there's this verse, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Now, what does that mean? The word renewal, the original Greek word, it really refers to a renovation. And I don't know if any of you have ever renovated a room in your house, maybe a bathroom, maybe a kitchen, but what's the first thing you do? you have to get rid of the old stuff. You take that out. You use pliers, whatever you need to do to get rid of the old stuff before you can put the new stuff in. Well, that's what the transformation is. It's a renovation, and it is a transformation. As I mentioned, my life has transformed. My body has transformed because I'm not conformed to my old ways of thinking. So it's so important to have the right mindset. And weight loss will only be temporary, as I found out for some 30 years, just yo-yo dieting, losing a little, gaining it back, unless your mindset changes. It's about preserving lean muscle and protecting your bone health and securing independence. It's never too late to rebuild your muscle, and I'm living proof of that. You can do it, and again, you don't have to be a gym rat. You can do it at home with some simple exercises in well less than 30 minutes a day. So I've had some testimonials for my book. As I've mentioned, reading a book isn't going to get you there without coaching, accountability, and support. These are some people with that have enjoyed the book, and I want to say, in conclusion, if you're interested in coaching, accountability, and support to lose weight permanently with no injections, no excessive exercise, to preserve muscle mass, to avoid sarcopenia, I have a website. You can contact me through that. You can use this QR code to access that website. And here's my business card. This is my personal number.